Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Town of Jerome Design Review Board. Today is Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. It is 6:17 p.m. This meeting is being held via Zoom. And tonight, I, Tyler, the vice chair, will be hosting this meeting. Kristen, can we get a roll call?
Yes. Chair Bryce Wood is not able to join us. Vice Chair Tyler Christensen.
Here.
Board Member John McDonald.
Here.
Board Member Mimi Romberger.
Here.
And Board Member Carol Whitner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Are there any petitions from the public tonight?
No, none that we have tonight.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 3. Let's see, approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of Tuesday, November 25th, 2022. Are there any comments or questions about these minutes?
No, I'll move that we approve them as presented.
I'll second that.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion before I call the question? Okay, all those in favor of approving the regular meeting minutes of Tuesday, November 25th, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we have 4 ayes and 1 absent vote from Bryce. Okay, on to item number 4, seeking approval for new signage. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit there. I would like to make a motion to move item number 8 before item number 7. So I'd like to move item number 8 directly after item number 6.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and second on the floor. Any more discussion? Moving item 8 further up. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And that motion passes with 1 absentee vote from Bryce. Okay, now item number 4, seeking approval for new signage. The applicant / owner is Elizabeth Lord from Flag Properties. This will be in the C1 zone and the address is 405 Hull Avenue. The applicant is seeking approval to install a new project hanging sign for the opening of their new business. So we'll give it to Will. Will, do you have a
Sure.
update?
I'll forego the building backgrounds in order for the sake of speed tonight. The building backgrounds and history is with the applications at the front page for each and every one of these items. So feel free to read that, ask any questions if anything pops up, but for brevity's sake, I'll move on. So what we have here is a new business at 405 Hull Avenue going in where the old Rickledor's candy shop used to be. And the business owners are seeking approval to install a projecting sign as well as a window sign, which Town of Jerome zoning ordinance calls a wall sign in quotation. So it's a wall sign, but it's a window sign. The first sign, the wall window sign is to be applied directly to the main window on the facade that sits next to those double doors. It's going to be professionally designed and professionally printed on sort of a vinyl window decal. It won't be hand painted, but it'll be of the same graphic that you see 2 pages beyond. The first sign here, the vinyl decal, is 70 inches by 28 inches, which is 5.3 feet by 2.3 feet. A total of 12.1 square feet, well within the maximum of 16 square foot. The second sign, the 2-sided projecting wall mounted sign, is made from laser cut MDF wood. It's 36 inches by 36 inches, 3 by 3 feet, or simply 9 square feet of surface area. Once again, well under the 16 square foot maximum in the zoning ordinance. On page 3, you'll see, or on the following page, you'll see a picture of the front of the building as it currently is, and then you'll see opposite that a picture of the window signage that is been photoshopped to give you an idea about how it's going to be placed in size, proportions in relation to the windows. And beyond that, on the final page, you'll see the projecting wall-mounted sign. that, again, has been photoshopped in place. They're going to reutilize the existing projecting sign mount that's there, so no new sign mounting is going to have to be installed on the building. This is a pretty short and sweet to my mind. Does anyone have any questions or want me to expand on any particulars of this?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
My first question is for the window sign part. So it looks like there's some trim in the middle of that window. And it looks like the Photoshop image we have here is a single word ghost flower. I'm wondering, just to clarify, if ghost is going to be on one window and flower is going to be on the other.
I couldn't tell you. The applicant didn't give me those particulars. And do we have anyone representing the applicant here tonight? No, we don't. Sorry, I can't answer. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I'm assuming that's what it is. I would just like to clarify that. As far as the other sign goes, the only question I have is that if it is wood, is it going to be like another vinyl decal on top of that wood? And what is its
If I
weather?
got far enough away, it wouldn't.
That's what I understand, is that it's going to be decal applied to the MDF and then sealed.
Okay, cool. Okay, those are the only two questions I have. If possible, some clarification on how that window version of this sign is going to be divided. If they have to cut it in half, it looks okay to me. I like the look of it. It looks great.
That's pretty good. There we go.
And Bryce has joined us.
Hi, Bryce.
Hi, Bryce.
So Bryce, we're on the new signage for the ghost flower in the old Rickle-Doris Candy building. You get yourself
Item
situated.
number 4.
See that there are two different signs. One is on the window and one is a wall-mounted sign over the sidewalk.
I have a question.
Yes.
It looks like on the window, on the facing the street, there's a mullion in the window and the graphic goes right over it. How does that work?
Yeah, I had the same exact question, and unfortunately tonight we don't have that applicant available to answer that question. Our best assumption is that it will be divided among those two windows, ghost and flower, but we don't have a final answer on that.
Okay.
What do we do? Should we wait?
I would
That's
like
a
to
good
get that clarified
Okay.
because this is a single word. It's not a capital G and then a capital F for flower. It is ghost flower as one word. So if they divide it up into two, I'm just wondering how that they're gonna marry those two together to be one word. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about approving this project?
My only concern is about the stability of the projecting sign. It's windy down there. I assume they're going to take that into account when they mount it.
I mean, the mount that's there is the one that has been in use.
Okay.
So as long as there's been no problems with the previously existing sign there that Rickle-Doris had, there shouldn't be any problems with this. But as of course, nature here can take its course and, we adjust as we need to.
Do you think we should wait to get more information, or are we just being nitpicky?
We can table stuff, that's a piece we can do.
I know.
Wait for the input from the client, from the applicant.
What do you think? Do you think we
I
should?
I suggest that we table this.
Okay. Can we
I
make that
move
a
that
motion?
we table this.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, Carol's going to second that to table this item. I believe this is item number 4. For clarification in terms of the window version of this sign. We would like to know if it's going to be divided between those two windows. And because it is intended to be one word, ghost flower. Just some clarification before we do the final approval is all.
Will do.
Right. Moving on to item number 5. Oh, wait, no, sorry, I did not call the question on that, not moving on. So all those in favor of tabling item number 4, please say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. That's a unanimous, that motion passes. Okay, item number 5. Seeking approval for new garden signage. The applicant is the town of Jerome. I assume this is a courtesy review. This is in the C1 zone. The address is 301 Hull Avenue. And the applicant is seeking approval to post a permanent garden sign in the town of Jerome Community Garden. Will, can you give us a status update?
Yes, I can. This is for the community garden. I couldn't figure out if the community garden was its own club or organization, so I filed it under the town of Jerome. And either way, anything like that, we'll do the courtesy review. So again, I'll skip over the building background information for brevity's sake. And finally, when you flip through, you're going to see a beautiful sign on page 6 of 11. It says that Mimi Romberger did. And here is your sign. Now, Mimi can give you the particulars on the sign, and there's 2 proposed locations on which to mount it. The first location is sort of tentatively on a shed that also has yet to be approved. But a shed is intended to be there eventually. Whatever the end result is located there, one option is to mount the sign on the side of the shed. The other one is to mount the sign directly on the fence in front of the shed. Dimensions for the sign are on the last page. But again, we're well within the maximum required by the zoning ordinance and the, what was it? Why does it say 5(8)? Oh my God, I hate finding my own typos mid-meeting. Anyways, but this is a very simple sign. It's within the square footage requirements. It's not a clean rectangle. It has the square in one corner that contains the bird. But beyond that, I don't know what else really to say about it, unless Mimi has anything you'd like to say about your sign.
I just used wood that we all had, so that's why I put the bird in there and kind of had some fun with it. So
It looks
and
good.
it's all been sealed with 3 coats of water sealant on both sides and the sides. It shouldn't fade, or I mean, it'll fade probably over the years if it's up that long, but it's yeah, just spare. It's on a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and I painted it in acrylic with 3 coats of spar sealant on both sides and the sides.
Looks good, Mimi. I like it.
I do too. I love the sign. I thought it looked great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions or anything that needs to be expanded upon on the sign?
Do we have a preference for where we'd like it to be mounted? I would prefer to see it on the fence. I feel like it'd be easier, more visible.
I agree with that. I like it on the fence better as well.
Does everyone agree to that?
yes,
Cool.
I personally like the fence myself too.
Okay.
Then we've got 4.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, do we have a motion?
I move
That
we
motion.
approve the sign as presented and have it placed on the fence, even though the bird looks like he's drunk.
Okay, I'll second that.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion before I call the question? All those in favor of approving this project as presented, please say aye.
I,
Aye. And opposed?
Did I abstain because I did the sign myself? So
Yes, you
All
may.
of-
We have 4 ayes and 1 abstention from Mimi. And that motion passes.
Yeah. Nicer.
Thank you again, Mimi. It looks good.
Yeah, it's very, very nice, Mimi.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, seeking approval for a new garden tool shed. Again, the applicant is the town of Jerome. This is a courtesy review. This will be in the C1 zone and the address is 301 Hull Avenue. The applicant is seeking approval to build a tool shed for the town of Jerome Community Garden. And I'll hand the floor to Will again.
We had, I know that the previous zoning administrator had worked with a resident here and they had come up with designs for another shed. Well, this is not that shed. This is a mostly prefabricated shed. It needs some assembly. But this is more akin to like the vinyl Home Depot sheds that are in your sort of average yard. And let's see, the old shed paperwork and designs I do have, but didn't want to include them in this because this is what was presented to me by Sage. So there is an alternative option that I do have that if for whatever reason this is not approved, we can always explore that. So anyways, this particular shed is 8 foot by 4 foot, and it's called a lean-to style. It does come with a foundation. The shed arrives unassembled, requires no special skills or tools to put together and install. You can see some examples, and that is the color. And finally, on the back, the last page, you'll see the cross-section view of the shed interior. This is simply to secure the tools and equipment that are intended to be in use in the community garden. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
I have a few questions.
No.
So I am curious of what the foundation is made of.
I think it's sort of I couldn't find out exactly, but what I'm understanding is it looks like it's maybe even an aluminum frame that you drop like an 8x4 sheet of particle board or plywood into. And I believe that is the foundation. But I couldn't, even on the specs, when I was on the website, I couldn't exactly figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, I'm taking a look at the specs here too. And the main thing that catches my eye is the product weight is 126 pounds. And so that leads me in my other question. How much do we know the cost of this shed?
I don't off the top of my head.
Just under that.
I think it was,
It's under
think it
1,000.
yeah, just under
Yeah.
1,000.
I keep thinking about 700 in my head, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. So the material is vinyl. The thing weighs 100 and something pounds. The roof, everything is made out of the roof material is plastic. Looking at the pictures of the door and having assembled sheds like this in the past work, I would say this is probably not the most secure shed. It's probably vulnerable to vandalism. If I was motivated, I could see myself just pulling the door hard enough to just open it, even if it did have a locking mechanism. And if I didn't get the locking mechanism to unlatch, I feel like just based on the product weight that I could probably pry the walls of this thing apart.
Would you like me to, if you guys would like to table this, I can add the other shed, the wood shed that was originally designed. I can add that information and expand on this for next month's meeting.
I think we should do that.
Yeah, I do like the lean-to style. It's just the materials, the weight. It doesn't seem that secure. And I'm thinking of, in terms of materials, because it's plastic, it's not really going to fit in that area. If this was a metal shed or a wood shed or a combination of those two, I think it'd be much better. And then also, I know it says wind resistant up to 110 miles an hour, but based on just the weight of it, I feel like someone could go in there and tear it apart pretty easily. So if it's okay with the board, I'd like to make a motion to table this with the request to see other options.
I'm gonna second that motion.
So we have a
Right.
motion from myself, a second from Carol to table this with the request for other options. Any other discussion before I call the question?
Yeah, this is Mark Kerpitch. I think you
Yes.
really should look at having a concrete pad put down for it. A plywood pad is gonna rot and fall apart with the wet weather we have here and the ground structure. You really need a concrete pad and it needs to be bolted into that concrete pad.
Absolutely. I definitely agree to that. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, Mark. I think that's true.
I'd like to add something from personal. We bought a vinyl shed last summer, and if you don't have a very level base for those, they don't come together properly and the door will not stay shut, so.
Yeah, that would be the reason for the concrete pad too.
Yeah.
Level. With some metal anchors in the concrete. Whatever design y'all come to or they come to.
Cool. Yeah, it just doesn't seem strong enough. Okay, with all that, I will go ahead and call the question. All those in favor of tabling this item, please say aye. And the ayes have it. I don't think there's any opposition, so that motion passes to table that item.
And now we're going to bring up item 8 first, correct?
Correct, yes. So item number 8, seeking approval for new windows. Applicant / owner Janet Bustrin from Copper Star Remodeling via Scott Hudson. This is in the R15 zone and the address is 538 School Street. The applicant is seeking approval for remodels to the home at 538 School Street that involve a change in the windows. Will?
Yeah. So this is a small remodel project that Mr. Hudson has been working on that at last week's planning and zoning meeting, the work was approved. So I had to add this as an addendum because I, in my haste, forgot about the windows being an exterior that needs to come through you guys. He does have some areas where he has some siding that's being replaced, and the maps that are in here show that. But the exterior of that is going to be essentially like for like replacement. It's going to be matching the existing exterior with no changes. So that isn't here for approval, it's simply the windows. But I just wanted to let everyone be aware. Now, the windows that are going in, there are 2 of them. That's correct, Scott?
Yes.
Yes, 2 windows. They are Anderson double hung windows. And on the page that has the floor plan with the windows, that is an example from the manufacturer's website in the forest green that they are intended to be in. Let's see, and the map that on the same page shows the 2 places highlighted in yellow orange where those 2 windows are going to be added in. I'm not sure there's really much more to discuss. There's dimensions listed, 4 foot by 5 foot height. 32 by 5 foot, bedroom 2. But does anyone have any particular questions or comments on this?
Not right on it.
Not sure, but Scott, would you like to have a word for the record?
Sure. The front of the building, the windows that are going in are the same brand and type and color as the rest of the house that's been finished. So the front of the building, it's on the left, there's a French doors and kind of glass on the side. So that's going to be removed and just down to 1 window. And the other window on the side in the back bedroom, you can't see from, you can't really see it. It's between the Ghost City Inn and Janet's house. It's very thin. Like it should be stood on the street and really looked at, you could see it. But the major change with the building is going to be on the front, from taking out the double doors and just having 1 window.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, with that, I'll open up to comments or discussion.
I also have a cousin who actually lives in France. She's been there for a long time, but she had a cabin.
I'll make a
I think
comment.
we should approve it.
I like this presentation. I don't have any questions or concerns. This looks pretty straightforward to me.
I'll make a move that we approve that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
I will second that.
Okay, I'll give, Bryce will be seconding that. Before I call the question, are there any more comments or discussion, clarifications? Okay, with that, all those in favor of approving this project as presented, please say aye.
Right?
Aye.
And opposed? No opposition. This motion passes. Thank you, Scott. This looks really good. That building is coming along. I've been watching it come along and it's really great. Glad to see that.
The last section to fix, and then the house is done. So,
Awesome. Awesome.
thank you, guys.
It really is going to be done.
I hope so.
It's so long, but it's so beautiful. It's like amazing. I knew the people who lived in that house 45 years ago, and it's amazing to see what you've done. It's beautiful.
Come a long ways. So
Yes, yes.
it's nice to save a house.
Lovely. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll be moving on to what is item number 7, which is seeking approval for demolition permit for the historic Tamale Lady House. The applicant / owner is Crested Construction, McGirder, Robert James, and Huerta Maria Regina Trust. This is in the R15 zone, and the address is 21 North Drive. And the applicant is seeking approval to demolish the house. Gotta be a fun one. So I'll hand it over to Will so he can give us an update of what's going on here.
Well, so first of all, initially, Barry, our building inspector, was going to try to attend the meeting as well. He's obviously didn't happen. So, but the Tamale Lady's house, as historic as it is falling apart. It's proving to be a health and safety hazard as well as a fire hazard. Chief Blair agrees that it is those things, as does Barry, our building inspector. In fact, many months ago, Barry and I were even talking about, recommending condemnation for the building. Now, the property owners have reached out through Mac, who's here tonight. Thank you, sir. And asked that the property be demolished and then rebuilt. Now, this property, I don't believe it's going to be rebuilt to the requirements for a federal reconstruction standards. However, those designs have yet to be made and brought before all the proper council. So that one step at a time. Now, this building here, as it is just, there's very little of it, if anything at all, that is salvageable. The only salvageable parts are going to probably be exterior treatments, things that they can use for the facade and decor, really. But the house itself is fairly famous. Looking into it, I didn't find an actual property inventory survey from the Arizona Historic Properties for that building. Scott and I have actually discussed this a number of times, and if one isn't found, we're going to make it. I've already gone out once and collected some basic information and photographs of the building exterior. But as the demolition progresses, and the demolition, as I understand, and Mac, please correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be a sort of a dismantling rather than, a crane wrecking ball, the classic, just all in one go. It'll be sort of a methodical dismantling. Am I correct in saying that?
As safe as we can do it that way, yes. And hopefully it doesn't fall over while we're doing it.
And while he's doing that, he's kindly agreed to occasionally let me bug him and collect more historic data on it. The end result is that, we'll have all the historic data that I can gather to satisfy, archaeological recordation standards. But let's open this up to discussion.
Yeah, what are our comments, questions, concerns?
I'd
Yeah.
like to say something.
We have some chatter going on in the background of someone's audio.
It's me.
Oh,
And
okay.
really, all I can say is it breaks my heart to see that building go down, especially with the history and the tamale ladies and everything. I mean, I understand what's going on there, but it's a heartbreaker, really.
It is. Yes, Bryce.
I agree with Carol entirely. You know, we are a National Historic Monument. And we're supposed to preserve things, not tear them down. And this building was occupied pretty recently. That it's not on the historic survey is irrelevant to me. We know the people who lived here.
Yeah.
This is now what I would like to do is to sort of, again, table this progress so that we can have some other considerations. One is I would like to see what is going to come in its place, if that's what happens. I would also like a time for the community to hear about this. This is going to be a very big issue in Jerome. We are a historic town. This is not trivial to I hope not to any of us. So I would like to put, I think we need further information, but about what is going to happen. We need drawings. We need,
Well,
okay, and here's just more background. This is one of a great number, not a great number, a dozen or so buildings in Jerome that I've seen worse restored, fixed up, made livable. And I'm amazed if Rusty said it's a hazard, whereas everything is a hazard, for God's sake. I would simply like to put this off until we know more about what the plan is. It's easy to say we're going to destroy something because that's easy to do. But it's not that easy to put something in that's going to look appropriate for our town, for our historic town. I'm not going to support a demolition.
If I can respond briefly, the terms of the final building that's going to be there shouldn't really weigh into our decision-making at this particular moment.
Yes, it does.
Technically, if the property owner was worried about the fire health hazard of the building on their property, they could demolish it simply to remove the liability that the building is accruing without ever replacing it, and they would be well within their legal rights to do so.
Now, obviously, the reason we're having this discussion is because you need a permit to demolish a building.
Yes, sir.
So the fact that these people, through the neglect, have been demolishing this building, perhaps is something we should look at. That, you know, this is irresponsible, non-historic. I don't get it. I've seen far worse places fixed up to, you know, livability.
Forgive me. No one is saying that it's not historic. I'm simply saying that the record wasn't there. So we're going to fix it and make sure that it is. I understand it has great sort of cultural, at least like local cultural significance. And so none of that's lost on me. However, also from the planning perspective, from the health and safety perspective, these are things I have to consider. Now, even though we are a federally protected archaeological district, historic buildings, archaeology as a whole, it doesn't mean that it has to live completely in a time capsule. If it needs to be destroyed, all it means is that there are requirements for data collection and gathering so that this information survives. Those requirements are in place. So as long as we follow all those requirements from a historical perspective, as heartbreaking as it is, they're well within their legal rights, even to demolish the building and leave a vacant lot, simply to remove their liability. Now, the time I would say that it should have been rehabbed was probably 10 or 15 years ago. Now, to the particulars of how bad it is inside, Mac could probably give you a better description than I can, if you would care to hear that.
So we can start there. So it's definitely the whole objective is to rebuild the structure. Externally, it's going to be redone with metal, very, very similar to what's there now. We can't do exact because that metal is not made like that anymore. So it will be wrapped in metal. It will be structurally almost a replicate of what's there, not quite. From what I understand, talking with the homeowners, it will be just a little bit bigger, but not very much. It'll still be the multi-level. And structurally, it is definitely not sound. I've been in it a couple of times, and I'm not sure how to structurally support things to rebuild it in a manner that would leave it all there and rebuild it like I did on the Center Street house. I can't figure out a way to do it so that no one's going to get hurt, because structurally everything is so rotted and so worn out. It's not safe at all.
Okay, thank you, Mac. I have a couple questions for Will. So it says here in the property standards, subsection B states that the design review board can postpone the permit for up to 180 days. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I think we should take full advantage of that time. I think this board would like to see multiple things. Some of the things that I would like to see are in writing from Rusty, the fire hazard, in writing from the building inspector, structural problems, so that that's on the record. But also, I don't know how appropriate it is, but some sort of a letter of intent from the contractor or owners, what they intend to do. We'd like to see some drawings of what this building is going to look like. Even if it's.
We need to be careful. We're reaching a little bit too far with that requirement on this particular aspect. We can't really take into what they're going to do in the future into this particular consideration at this moment, because the projects are not connected at this time. So.
Okay.
May I speak?
Yes, please.
Okay. In 1979, I bought what was called the Rosie Salas house. It's above Main Street at the intersection of East Avenue. And that house was condemned. I bought the house for $10,000. And it had been saved by community action. It was due to be torn down, and enough people from Jerome came and surrounded the house that they couldn't do that. I suggest this is another possibility. Now, that house had at least the structural issues that you're looking at here. It came out with a lot of work. I didn't finish the work. John Scarcella bought it from me. He finished the work. But it's a perfectly good house. That was the piano teacher's house in those days, just as this was the tamale lady's house at the same time. These things have history. And I've seen restoration for worse, but it's certainly, I think we need to see what the plan is. I agree with that idea.
I agree with that as well. I think we should see more. I do.
Yeah, we definitely want some more details. I mean, I know we can't go into full-on plans and drawings and exact numbers, but we'd like to know, what are the materials on the outside going to look like? How many stories is it going to be? If the square footage is going to be bigger, by how much percentage, give or take a certain percentage. We'd like to know just how much.
The problem is that might be the intention of the homeowner in the end, but the one project that's in front of us right now legally is simply the demolition. And so we need to keep our minds focused on the fact that that is the legal issue in front of us, and that the new construction as a separate project isn't in front of us yet. And so we really can't consider that at this point. We need to talk about the demolition, whether we want to allow it to proceed or whether we want to delay it, and what we would like to see happen if it was delayed. But those are we have to stay very narrowly focused on this.
Well, I don't think we should demolish the building yet. I don't. That'll be
agree.
my hope.
I'd like to see, like I said, in writing from Rusty and from the building inspector, Barry, just so that we have that on record, and it's not just word of mouth. We'd like to take all steps at our disposal to, delay demolition and make sure that we're doing everything, make sure we're doing our due diligence to, preserve as much as we can.
Yes. Yes. Do we need to make a motion?
I'm not sure.
What do we do next?
So what I do know is that the structure is going to be rebuilt. I'm under contract to rebuild a structure. In order to do that safely in a manner that does not cause harm to myself, anybody that works for me, or any subcontractors, or create any issue with any neighboring properties or city property because of its location, it needs to be taken down to be rebuilt. There is no way to safely do that right now at all. There's not been a roof, from what I've been told, on that, and there's a hole in the roof that has been there between 12 and 15 years. And all that water and all that exposure has created everything to be dry rotted and completely unsafe. All I'm trying to do is take it down before it falls down, and we cannot reuse anything that's there now. I do know that structurally, the metal can be reused, and the homeowner is planning on using that as a fence around the property to keep that there. The intent is to use metal again on the exterior of the building that's very similar to what is there now and not change it up that much. That's not the plan, to just build some elegant, ginormous castle.
Right.
They want to maintain it very similar in size and structure for what it is now. So right now, we're just trying to move forward to get things set up so that when we do have the rest of the plans finished up, which are being worked on now, then we can proceed with the other parts of this process.
Hello?
Oh,
Yeah,
so
right.
is there any way that we can see those plans?
No.
They're not done, and no, and just like Will said, it's completely irrelevant right now. Right now, the only legal aspect is the fact that the building is trying to, I can't believe it hasn't fallen over now after being inside of it. It is not structurally safe.
Neither was the Rosie Salas house. I can guarantee that. Now, I think we could combine Carol's concerns, my concerns, Tyler's concerns into a motion to table this matter until we have the information that Tyler has asked for. I make a motion that we table this item until we have satisfied Tyler's questions about.
Point of order. I want to know exactly what you are asking for before we move forward with the vote. That by law, I can ask for.
Okay, so first would be fire from Rusty, his concerns with fire safety, structural concerns in terms of people being around the structure to demolish it from the building inspector, or just general structural integrity. And then if possible, Will, maybe you can help me out with this. If there's any way to get a letter of intent from the owner.
I'm not sure that would be appropriate. I will have to check tomorrow with our town attorney, but I don't think that would be legally appropriate.
You're trying to make a requirement on somebody with private property rights. You're trying to dictate what can and cannot happen with a private property just because you don't want to see a building torn down. That's going to fall over if we don't do something with it. And the intention of the owners is to rebuild the structure.
You understand we have an ordinance here. We have rules. We're trying to follow the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines in this matter.
But you also don't get
We
to.
also are not in a hurry.
Cannot happen with private.
I'm not in a hurry to do this. Are you? Well, is that really relevant to me that you're in a hurry?
Private property rights is what's coming into.
Wait a
play.
second. Private property rights also have rules attached. You know,
Yes,
you're working in a community, you're working in a state. Please.
So,
legally, it seems
so,
like-
so I'll make it very clear right now, because I'm under contract with the homeowners, that no one is allowed on the property in any way, shape, or form without express written permission from me. No one is allowed on that premises. If there is trespassers, I will press charges to the full extent of the law at this point.
Do you think this is going to help you?
It doesn't matter if it helps me. I'm just making sure that no one goes on the property so that no one gets hurt, because there's liability associated with the structural integrity of the building. It's not safe. The board here was trying to condemn the building prior to me starting this process.
Sorry, I don't know that.
So I'm trying to eliminate a process and a problem through the town by being able to take down a building, use as much of that material in the new structure as I can, and rebuild a building that looks very similar to what it is, that's usable. And you're saying that I can't do that for people that are willing to pay for that to be done.
I'm saying I would like to table this issue until a little bit later. We do this. We take our time.
Let me interject here and let's be clear on that, that we want the letter from Barry, the building inspector. We want the letter from our fire chief Blair. And then at the same time, I'll pull out the SOI standards and present them as they relate to this case.
Okay, I think based off of those two letters from Rusty and from Barry, we'll be able to make a better decision when it comes to granting a permit, potentially granting a permit. So the motion would be to table this item with the request to get letters from Barry and from Rusty regarding the safety of the structure prior to granting a permit.
I'm going to second that.
Okay, yeah. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? So just to clarify again, there's nothing that we can really do other than make sure that we do our due diligence and make sure that this building is indeed found to be unsafe in the condition that it's in, and the best option moving forward is to potentially grant a permit for demolition with the idea to rebuild it as best as possible. And the only way to do that, like you said, is to take it apart as fast as possible before it falls down and we lose even more historical data from this thing. All right, so a motion is on the floor. Before I call the question, once again, is there any more comments, questions, concerns, clarifications? All right, with that, all those in favor of tabling this, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the ayes have it.
Point of clarification, who seconded the motion?
I did.
So the
Carol?
motion was from Bryce and the second was from Carol.
Yeah, I could hear the voice, but I couldn't see the face. Another question for Mac, would you be willing to I'm pretty sure that you or the owners have let Rusty Blair and Barry Wollstonecroft on the property to look at the building. If they need to see it again, would you be willing to allow that?
I will have to be present.
Okay, yeah.
And
Yeah, if you want to email your information, your contact information to Will, if he doesn't already have it, just so we can contact, you have it, great, perfect, thank you.
Okay. I know this is a very contentious item. No one in this town likes to see a building demolished. We all, from the bottom of our heart, would like to see this building, if it is demolished, brought back to, you know, a state that reminds us of what it once was. You know, obviously, we do not want to see a completely different structure here, but I don't think that's the intention at all. We just want to make sure that we do our due diligence because, like Bryce said, our our role here is to preserve, and so we don't want to miss a beat when it comes to our opportunity to make sure that we're fulfilling that duty. And so, Mac, I appreciate you getting on the call tonight.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm sure many of you will hear from me in the next couple of days. And if you have any information, historical or otherwise, that pertains to this, please let me know. I'm trying to get together as much information on that house as I can glean, so that we could start increasing our understanding, adding to the paperwork. And it'll be an interesting experience if we get to observe the demolition that Mac does, the dismantling, so to speak. From wearing my archaeologist hat, it'll be really fascinating to look at, methods of construction materials and so on. So, they always say archaeology is a destructive science, but when there's going to be destruction abroad, I do see it as an opportunity to glean some knowledge, make it worth it. And whereas it definitely does symbolize sort of the end of an era, it is an opportunity for us to potentially learn more about that house than we have learned up to this point. So there's, what little of a silver lining there is there. Hopefully we'll get some interesting data out of it.
Yeah, silver lining indeed. And another silver lining is that this eventually, hopefully, will, be a very beautiful property once again in this town. And it definitely will not be forgotten, whatever does happen. So with that, we'll move along. We'll move on to item number 9, updates of recent and upcoming meetings, and I will hand that off to Will.
The January 10th regular council meeting, the council tabled a meeting regarding the community garden until March to await the DRB's final decision for the tool shed and the sign. Resolutions focused on one-way streets failed due to a lack of motion, and they approved an agreement with Lexington Law Firm PLC for prosecution services. They discussed the possible regulations for mobile food vendors and held an executive session to consider taking bids for town-owned property. The January 17th regular meeting of Planning and Zoning, we had one item, which was Scott Hudson's 538 School Street, which you guys reviewed the windows of. That was approved by them at that time. I'm sorry, that's another item.
Go ahead, item number 10.
Item 9, future DRB items. This will probably be the first item back on that meeting, unless we want to try to schedule a special meeting just for this issue.
Yeah, not sure yet.
Okay.
Most likely just for next month, unless it is a very full agenda, but we'll make that decision as it comes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone making it on the call tonight. Apologize for any technical difficulties we had getting this thing going. This is we have some work ahead of us. We just want to make sure we do our due diligence again one more time. And so I thank everyone for getting on the call tonight. Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Bryce, for all of your input. I know you have a lot of experience in this, and hopefully you have a lot of wisdom moving forward. So with that, I will move on to item number 11, which is adjournment. Does anybody have any motions?
Well, I will. Want to go eat with my friends.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I believe there was a motion from Carol to adjourn and a second from Mimi.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning this meeting at 7:11 p.m., please say aye.
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 I just want to say thank you to everybody for all your input, and especially to you, Bryce and Tyler, for your part in this. I think it's important. And so we'll see what happens as we go forward. So good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.